You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Finally, officially feels like spring for the Minor League Baseball podcast, the show before the show, because we are on location. Well, not we. One of us is on location. Sam, you're on location. How's location?
You're always on location, aren't you?
Yeah, kinda. I guess, sorta.
You want to put it that way?
I'm outside of the normal locale for you, for the office.
Right. I am in Tampa currently. Just to bring everybody into where we are at right now. We are recording this on Tuesday. Normally we record on Wednesday, but we're doing this on Tuesday because I'm going to be at Yankees camp all day tomorrow. So when you're hearing this on Thursday, go find what I wrote about the Yankees. I have some plans for that, but I don't want to talk about it until it happens. So some fun stuff there. I'll definitely have an interview for everybody from Yankees camp tomorrow in this podcast. Who that is redacted until it becomes true. So
it's a teaser.
Yeah. You guys will know.
Yeah, you'll already know by having downloaded it and having it in the title of the episode. But as of right now, we don't even know.
So you listener are already ahead of me.
Yeah, you're ahead of me.
You're technically ahead of me. I don't know.
Weird Matrix stuff.
Yeah. It's all this Doctor Who stuff. Anyways, so yeah, we're doing this on Tuesday. A lot of fun this week for me. Yankees coming up on Wednesday. Phillies on Thursday, Braves on Friday. 3 really solid systems, all really close here in Florida and kind of Central Florida area. So it should be a lot of fun, and we'll pick it up from there. Tyler, when are you getting to Arizona again?
Sunday night, I'll be hitting Phoenix. Josh Jackson will be driving from Los Angeles that day. I'll be flying down from Denver, and then really Monday through Friday, it's just a free-for-all for us. And Josh and I have kind of started to get an idea of who's going to be headed where. We already have our assignments for our 2017 Prospect Primers, which is one of our most popular features of the year throughout the entirety of all the feature stuff that we do. Everybody really likes the Prospect Primer stuff because it gets you ready for the season. It's also a big hit, I know, with the fantasy community, people who are sort of keeping an eye out for dark horse candidates that could make an impact on a major league roster. But Prospect Primers are always a ton of fun for us, so we have our assignments for those, so I know Josh and I are sort of getting an idea of where we're going to be, but I'll be down there on Sunday, and then I am headed out of Phoenix on Saturday, but you are going to be in Florida like forever.
Yeah, until St. Patrick's Day.
That's awesome.
So it's going to be a very whirlwind tour. I'm staying in Tampa half the time, staying in West Palm Beach half the time, so that's a lot of fun. But enough about the future for us. Let's talk about the present.
Let's do it.
We haven't even brought up what episode this is.
No, we haven't, which is
a big one.
It is a big one. We were being modest, the haters and losers, as the president would term them, probably never thought we'd make it to 100 episodes, but here we are. 100 episodes, Sam.
Which one of us is the hater and the loser if we never thought we would make it this far ourselves?
Let's just blame Jake Signer. Let's call him the hater. It's all on Jake. Rest in peace, Jake. 100 episodes of the Show Before the Show podcast from MILB.com.
I think that means we go into syndication.
My goodness. Yeah, that's true.
I think TBS picks up our old episodes and just re-airs them at 3:30 on Thursdays. So this is fantastic.
This is great. We'll get a lot of royalty money from that. I balk at the idea of how much time I've spent recording and editing this podcast. In addition to another podcast I do, I think it's already been like almost 2 weeks of my life I've spent recording and editing podcasts. Because 100 hours, that's like a week. That's like a full work week of not just in a work week. I mean, like a full 24-hour day. Play that out over 4.5, 5 days. Like, that's a long time you could spend listening to this podcast. It's amazing.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to try that feat,
do it for us.
We'll do something for you.
That's how it goes.
Yeah,
should be fun. But yeah, this is pretty awesome. We made it to 100 episodes. What was the episode number that you joined us on? 19.
I honestly can't remember.
I can't either now.
I mean, I was a special guest.
But then you took over pretty shortly after that. as the brains behind the operation. And we've been making podcasting history ever since, Sam.
Yeah, in the least smooth transition of all time.
It was pretty good. I loved it. It was great. So thank you to all of you who have joined us for however many of our 100 episodes that you've been around for. If there's anybody out there who has actually listened to, if you believe that you've actually listened to every episode of the Show Before the Show podcast, you should really get in touch. Podcast@MILB.com. You can tweet at us. I'm at Tyler Mon. Sam is at Sam Dykes or MILB. If there's anybody out there who got onto us from week number 1, I would really love to know that. I think that'd be super cool. Maybe it's the dude with the Zune. Feel like he would have been a stalwart. He would have hung on for a while. He's hung on to the Zune this long.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's him. Maybe it's some of the other guys who give us shout outs every week on Twitter. I know John is one of our big fans out there. I'm sure he's been with us since day one. My challenge would kind of be find a deep cut. Find like a second strike. Episode like 17 or something.
Right. Something that you remember that you were like, oh yeah, this
really weird now. Try to find the deepest cut you can in the podcast and tweet that at us, and we'll retweet you and celebrate your find, whatever you do find. So yeah, that would be my episode 100 challenge.
That's a good call. I like it. And if you have been with us for all 100 episodes, you are already probably a loyal listener / subscriber. But if you are not, you can head on to iTunes and the Stitcher app and wherever else you find your podcast and give us a rating and a review and a subscription. You can also find us at MILB.com/podcast. It's very handy. We wrote up a story yesterday about Tim Tebow, who will be getting his first major league game experience coming up on Wednesday in a Grapefruit League game for the Mets, and went to MILB.com/podcast, searched by his name, found the episode in which we had Tim Tebow on, quoted him in the story that we wrote, linked to that episode. It's very easy at MILB.com/podcast to catch up on anything that you have missed. And with that, we will get started with strike number 1 of episode number 100 of the Show Before the Show podcast. Sam is in spring training. We are through a couple of weeks of spring training now. Sam, who's standing out to you from week number 2 in spring training?
Yeah, I want to kind of talk about, and I want to get a little bit deeper into this when I'm in Braves camp later this week, but Ronald Acuna, he's a let's see if I can do the math on the top of my head. He is 19 years old, out of Venezuela. A player who just played, I think, about 40 games last year at Class A Rome. So not a lot of time, even at the lowest levels last year. He played exactly 40 games for Class A Rome. This year, in spring training, being just turned 19 in December, he's already 6 for 13 in spring training. Small sample, I get that, and I'm not trying to look too much into his 40-62 average here for the Braves. But the fact that they are giving a 19-year-old 13 at bats this early, and they're rolling him out for starts. It's not just 2 at bats here, 1 at bat, pinch hit at bat here and there. This is a guy they're getting regular time, and it's just fascinating for me. I don't know how much of that is them trying to get him back up to speed. He had thumb surgery last year. He did end up playing in the Australian Baseball League, Tyler, which you are well versed in.
Yeah, he tore it up.
Yeah, he was there for a month from November 18th to December 18th. Hit .375 in that league with a 1.011 or 1.001 OPS and 13 steals in 20 games. So he's, for a system that's already, we know so good, he's the number 8 prospect in that system. For them to be leaning on him so much right now is just kind of fascinating. What does that tell us about, how they view him? Is he advanced? Could he move quickly? Is this just, a system without that many good outfielders? I mean, when we talk about their best position prospects, it's all infielders, right? It's Dansby Swanson, it's Ozzie Albies, it's Kevin Maitan, who is way too far away from getting Grapefruit League action. And then you got Acuna, who is, I guess, the best, outfield prospect in that system. So is this just getting a look at him? What does this kind of mean? I'm just fascinated by that. So, we'll have to see how much they keep giving him, whether he kind of keeps this up, where it carries him. Is he going to be at, Class A Advanced, Florida, that wickedly exciting roster that we're going to talk about more as we get closer to the season? Or, is he fast-tracked even further than that? Are we looking at a guy like Ozzie Albies, who jumped straight from Rome to to Mississippi, I don't want to say that's going to happen. Acuna missed way too much time, even if with the made-up time in the Australian Baseball League. I don't think they're going to push him that hard. But the fact that they're leaning on him right now in this way is just kind of fascinating to me. And I don't see it with any other kind of teenager in baseball right now. So he's going to be one I'm kind of keeping an eye on the rest of the way. Who's on your list, Tyler?
One of the guys I really like is the top prospect in the Oakland A's organization, and it goes kind of on the opposite end of what you're talking about with a guy who's only played such low-level ball. Franklin Barreto has played really high-level ball. Last season was fantastic for Double-A Midland in the Texas League, and then jumped up after 119 games in Double-A. He played 4 games to finish the season in Triple-A with the Nashville Sounds of the Pacific Coast League. But so far, he's played in 8 games for the A's, 6 of his first 13. That's a .462 average. He's OPSing .995. They're all singles so far, but reaching at a very good rate, an on-base percentage of .533. He's walked once. He struck out 4 times. Attempted a couple of stolen bases and been caught twice. But Franklin Barreto, the last steps for him before he's a major league impact guy. And to handle the spring training work that you are given is really all you can do at this stage. These guys don't have any control over their performance leading them somewhere in terms of a roster assignment to start the season. You can't control where you're going, so when you're given the opportunities, you basically just have to do everything humanly possible with them. If I'm in the player development department for the A's or for any other organization, and we have a guy who is a highly regarded talent, we're throwing him in there for major league experience, and he's coming out and putting together really impressive performances, that's the best case scenario. So Franklin Barreto, another good day today. We're recording, as Sam said, on the 7th, and he came in as a pinch hitter, had a hit today, scored a run, drove in a run. So, when it's top-level talent guys and they're doing things that you want to see top-level talent guys do, it's always fun to watch.
Yeah, the thing with Barreto for me is, he's always been a really solid hitter, has pretty good power for a middle infield guy. But the thing for me is he kind of reminds me of Raul Mondesi back when he was coming up. Raul Mondesi.
The young one.
The younger.
Yeah.
To make it sound like Game of Thrones. Raul Mondesi the younger. He was the youngest guy everywhere he went. He would struggle a little bit. He would hit, mid 200s, but you would say, oh, he's just a 19-year-old playing at Double-A Texas League or something like that. They're pushing him too hard. Not pushing him too hard, but they're pushing him aggressively. Barreto, everywhere he's gone, even, when he was with the Blue Jays, he was being kind of pushed aggressively. And he hasn't thrived necessarily in a way like a Julio Urias did when he was so young, but he has been more impressive to me offensively anyways than Mondesi ever was in that kind of level. And that makes me even more excited. This is how we're going to kind of build on this. We kind of look at that now. I think Addison Russell, everybody's kind of pointing to him as a guy who could have a breakout season this year in the majors because he's been so young in the majors these last couple of years for the Cubs. Barreto, the way he keeps building on this, I think by the time he gets to the majors, he's going to be at least a league average hitter, and he's going to be so young at that level, he can go even higher than that. To see him do what he's doing this spring only kind of feeds that mentality I kind of have about him, and we'll have to see how that carries into the PCL, where we know is a hitter's league anyway, so how much is he going to thrive there?
Strike 2 this week, Sam, is a fun one. The prospect system rankings, the farm system rankings of prospects continue this week for us, and Kelsey Hennigan has been tackling our top prospects ages 21 and younger and ranking every major league farm system, all 30, in terms of their talent in prospects 21 and younger. The top 10, not released as of today, but it'll be out by the time you hear this on Wednesday or Thursday, and obviously we got the hookup to get the look at what it's going to be when it does come out. And the Atlanta Braves will take the top spot in these rankings as they did last week. I don't know if any of us had any inkling as to who would come out on top. I think we had a discussion about that last week, but the Braves were top in the pitching rankings. But the Atlanta Braves do come out number 1. Los Angeles Dodgers number 2. That's an interesting one Sam and I will talk about. The New York Yankees at 3. Houston Astros come in 4th. Pittsburgh Pirates number 5. Chicago White Sox number 6, the New York Mets number 7, the Boston Red Sox number 8, Cleveland Indians number 9, and the Colorado Rockies number 10. One of the things that really stands out to me in this and throughout this series so far is the top 10 with very few changes, seems like it remains the top 10, and it seems like it remains the top 10 pretty much in this order, which means not only are those systems good, but they're built in a deep sense and they're built in a very complete sense. It's not just that there are teams, the Cubs of a few years ago, who are just loaded with position players and don't really have the pitching talent. The systems that we've seen so far garner top 5, top 10 rankings have done so across the board, position players, pitchers, and under 21 players, 21 and under players to this point.
Yeah, and that's almost what makes it more interesting to me, the systems that kind of pop into these top 5s and top 10s, or, the ones that are peaking, at least in this category. And I think for me, the team that this is kind of a category made for them, even though they were number 2, was the Los Angeles Dodgers. I mean, we know the talent that's in that system. It was probably even more talented last year when we were talking about them because, Corey Seager was still there. Julio Urias was still a prospect. Those guys have since graduated. But what are you left with is a ton of young talent. I mean, Cody Bellinger, we talked to him at length this offseason. He could be a really, really impressive first baseman, both offensively and defensively. There are tons of people who think his bat is ready right now. He's an option in the outfield. Will he get called up early to be used as an outfield? We know the Dodgers, they have a plethora of outfielders, but somebody has to win the job. Bellinger could be good enough, by June or July to kind of take that. Yadier Alvarez, looking further down the system, I think there are people out there who think he can actually be an ace, and I don't mean that in just kind of like, yeah, he's their top pitching prospect. Of course he can be an ace. That's not true of top pitching prospects everywhere. He has the velocity. He has the repeatable delivery. Working on the breaking stuff. As he climbs, he could kind of go even higher. He's number 49 overall right now. Could get even better. Alex Verdugo is number 61. I mean, these are all guys who are going to be 21 or younger on opening day. Gavin Lux, I think he was a first-round pick last year. Jordan Sheffield was the 36th overall pick last year. This is a system that we knew was so young last year, graduated some guys, and still remains fairly strong, not as strong, but fairly strong, and still incredibly young. I mean, this is probably the favorites to win the NL West, certainly, and they're in the conversation with the Cubs to win the entire National League. You don't think of this as a team that needs a youthful injection, and yet there it is waiting for them. So that's just going to be fascinating for me. The Braves, the Yankees, we've kind of talked about them at length already. The Pirates are going to be high when we come out with our overall farm system rankings in a couple weeks. But this category in particular just kind of seems like it's made for the Dodgers, and that's why we have them at number 2. They're still not going to catch, the Braves, who have, Ozzie Albies there, Austin Riley there, Colby Aller, Mike Soroka, Ian Anderson, Acuna, who we already talked about today. Their list just keeps going on and on and on with young guys, and we could talk until we're blue in the face about that. But this is just such a fun category to realize which systems are not only good but are also young and still have rooms to grow.
As you pointed out, by the way, Julio Urias could have been in these rankings still. And his Twitter handle is still the teenager at the teenager7, which I think is an issue that needs to be brought up. Nobody's talking about this. But, I think he's 20 years old now. I think it's an issue we need to discuss. But that's how good that system is, and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. One of the other systems that I want to highlight, the San Diego Padres, the way that system has been remade, they check in at number 11. Just miss out on the top 10, but the way that system has been remade since that offseason a couple of years ago when the Padres and A.J. Preller went insane acquiring every big name, big money person they could, and it failed abysmally. The Padres since then have gone really back to the A.J. Preller drawing board. A.J. Preller was very good at spying amateur and young professional talent and building a system when he was with the Texas Rangers. That's what the Padres are doing now. They're number 11. They've been very well represented in the farm system rankings so far. So if you're a Padres fan, there's obviously a lot of good stuff on the way there.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned the Padres too. Remember last week, we asked Jim Callis, which farm system do you think has kind of the most fuel, which could kind of push itself further? And he mentioned the Padres, and we have the Padres at number 11 here in terms of youthful talent, just because they have a lot of really young guys who haven't quite proven themselves yet. I mean, Anderson Espinoza is kind of the crown jewel when it comes to that, but Adrian Morejon, Fernando Tatis Jr., those are two guys who we haven't quite seen Tatis we've seen stateside, but Morejon certainly we haven't seen stateside yet. We haven't seen them crack full season ball. So, they have the talent to do well there. They just haven't established themselves yet here in those types of leagues. I think if they do and they show the talent that they have, they're easily top 100 guys, and they can kind of creep into there this year. So we could be talking about the Padres in a year's time in the way we were talking about some of these other top 10 systems.
One final note, as also applied with the position players and the pitchers, D-backs fans, you could probably skip this series. Strike 3 this week, Sam. A reader-submitted question from Terry Shelley, who asks, kind of a unique one for us, in which we will discuss a couple of guys who are not yet professionals. But his question is, quote, how would you rank Mickey Moniak, Jaron Kendall, and Royce Lewis for their long-term potential? Now, coming into 2017... Jaron Kendall, the outfielder from Vanderbilt, and Royce Lewis, the prep shortstop / outfielder from California, who's committed to play at UC Irvine. Neither of those guys obviously yet has been selected in a major league draft or has played a professional game in the minor leagues yet, but two guys who are very highly regarded going into the 2017 season, now currently in the 2017 season, and a comparison to Mickey Moniak. It was a top overall selection in last year's draft. Kind of a last-minute thing. I think we heard pretty definitively the day before the draft, maybe 2 days before the draft, the Phillies were going to go with Mickey Moniak, but that was very much up in the air until the last hours. It felt like how the top 5 and top 10 would shake out. But what's your thought on this one?
Yeah, so I mean, you kind of touched on it a little bit in that the draft isn't quite in our wheelhouse until we get kind of closer to that. And I mean, that's for a reason. We're the minor leagues. We're focused on the guys in our purview. So Moniak now is very much in our purview. In terms of Kendall and Royce Lewis, we kind of defer to the pipeline guys. They have their own top 50 draft picks right now. Kendall is number 2. Lewis is number 3. Kendall, a guy at Vanderbilt, an outfielder there. Royce Lewis is a prep player in California, plays shortstop and the outfield. So the thing about Moniak was going into last year, what we knew at this time, based on what we were kind of reading a little bit, was that, he was a good high school bat, probably a first-round talent, but Blake Rutherford was the better talent going into their senior year. As things kind of progressed, Blake Rutherford's still a really talented player, but Moniak just got so much better that spring, ended up pipping him, ended up being a first overall pick. He was actually number 5 when Pipeline finished up its draft rankings. So they didn't have him as a, tacked on number 1 overall pick type player when they finished up their stuff. But, now we've seen him in the GCL. We know he can kind of hang in the pros. I was actually watching a documentary the other day on Derek Jeter, and he talked about how difficult the GCL is because it's your first time maybe facing failure. It's a first time majorly away from home. Around guys you didn't grow up with, and Moniak certainly held his own there. So now we think if he can hold his own in the GCL, which is not a hitter's league by any means, his ceiling even bumps up a little higher based on that summer last year. Kendall, Lewis, we haven't seen them in those environments yet. Particularly Lewis, he's still a high school player. For all we know, he could have a Moniak rise or a Rutherford kind of stagnation. It's too early in the spring to kind of make these calls. It's a fun discussion piece. We can talk about it. What they all kind of bring to the table in terms of a ranking. I think we all love mock drafts. The NFL draft is right now. The stupid combine, and I say that I don't enjoy the combine at all.
It is weird that people are super fired up about like watching guys run the 40 on live television. Right?
Yeah, we see them in games. Like how it translates in games.
I used to be a producer on a radio show that was strictly football, and the guy, this is a very brief aside, but the guy who was the host of the show is like the world's biggest nerd on that kind of stuff. And my question to him was always like, in what play in an NFL game does a guy just bust off the line and run 40 yards in a straight line and that's all he does? Like, what are you telling from that? Or like jump as high as you can in the air and smack some planks off of a pole. I don't get like what you're learning there. It just seems like the evaluation going into a baseball draft seems like at least it's a little more practical and applicable in that, oh, you're watching these guys play the sport that you're going to then pay them to play.
I mean, it certainly helps that baseball is just so much more measurable, especially now.
Right, definitely.
You know, in the age of StatCast, we don't have StatCast for college or high school at all, but we know a guy throws 95. You know, we have hard data on that. We have hard data on his, home to first times, his pop times if he's a catcher, yada, yada, yada. That makes it so much easier. I get that. But, in terms of their entire springs left to play, I don't feel comfortable, especially having not seen Kendall or Lewis play myself, saying that they're significantly better than a Mickey Moniak. Based on what I read, I think Kendall has that potential. He's already hit 4 homers for Vanderbilt this year. I think people kind of thought he had average power going into this year. Nobody else on that team has more than 2. So if he can show that he has some pretty good power to add with, what MLB Pipeline gave 70 speed, which is plus speed. I mean, that's the potential for a special player. But Kyle Lewis was a guy who won, awards out of Mercer. So trying to predict how this is all going to work itself out over a college baseball season when that's not our beat is kind of tough. So if I appreciate the question, I appreciate the discussion. We can certainly get back into this come end of May, beginning of June. But if you're starting to think about the draft now, there are people out there who are certainly reporting that and on that. If you want to ask them, that's fine, but it's a little too early out to be thinking about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of good hypothetical stuff, but so much can change over the course of a high school and a college season. And long term, obviously, a lot of guys get into rookie ball, a lot of guys get into Class A and just can't get it figured out. And a lot of guys that you don't expect to get it figured out are the ones who blow up and end up racing to the major leagues and having great careers. So it'll definitely be fun to watch, but it's a lot to shake out before the 2017 draft. That's 3 strikes for this week's edition of the Show Before the Show podcast. A couple of things that we wanted to get to is some foul balls. There's a really good piece up on the site right now. Michael Leboff, one of our writers at MILB.com, has a really cool story on Mariners minor league reliever Dylan Unsworth, who is a native of Durban, South Africa. We have discussed on this show a couple of different times Gift Ngope, who is a fellow South African baseball product from a nation in Africa that plays maybe the best ball in Africa. There are some other countries in Africa that have started to rise up to the level of South African baseball, but the baseball pioneers that have come out of South Africa are now really reaching the stages where they could make the major leagues. Gift Ngope seems like he would probably be the closest guy. He's on the 40-man. He's played in AAA. But Dylan Unsworth is really good. Last season, he went 4-1 with a 3-even ERA in the Arizona Fall League. So he is definitely a guy to keep an eye on, and there's a really cool story that's up on the site right now about that. And unfortunately, we have to once more for the second straight week extend our condolences to an organization in the International League. A very stunning story that came out of Durham. Home clubhouse manager Colin Saunders of the Durham Bulls passed away last week. He was 42 years old from complications from diabetes, and you could tell just from the immediate reaction on social media what he meant not only to the Bulls front office but to players who passed through Durham throughout their careers. And the Bulls, in a story, put out that, over the course of his 14 seasons in Durham and 17 seasons in the Rays organization, he had worked with guys like Evan Longoria and David Price and Chris Archer and Ben Zobrist and all these stars. With the Bulls, he had worked with 2 International League Hall of Fame managers in Bill Evers and Charlie Montoyo. Jared Sandberg, who is the current manager in Durham, he's been a guest on the podcast in the past. He tweeted about the loss, but we saw so many players tweeting about what a loss it was for somebody who has an impact on a major league club and the way it develops players in a much larger role than I think the average person realizes. And at 42 years old, Colin Saunders leaving us and the Durham Bulls, I got a chance to talk to Mike Burling, the general manager of the Bulls, and obviously a heartbroken day for his organization. But one quote that I wanted to touch on, and if you're a member of a minor league front office, if you are a clubby, you have to know how valued you are. And this is a quote from Mike Burling, who said, quote, "Like I said, those are the unsung people. Fans don't get to know who a clubby is. The clubby is the guy who's meeting the team at 3, 4 in the morning when the bus shows up, or staying and vacuuming after everyone leaves at 1 in the morning. All those little things that have to get done to make sure that our players are successful. When you have somebody that's been here that long, he's going to be really hard to replace." That is, when I was a minor league radio guy, I remember showing up to the clubhouse those same times, 3, 4, 5, sometimes it was 8, 9 in the morning, and being stunned that our guy Stan was in the clubhouse waiting for us when the bus rolled in at 3:30 a.m. They're very much the unsung people that keep the clock ticking for a minor league organization. So we extend our deepest sympathies to the Durham Bulls, because you don't want to lose a member of your family ever. You certainly don't want to lose a member of your family after you've been with them for 14 years. And at 42, that's a heartbreaking loss for Durham and for the Rays organization.
Yeah. Just to extend what Tyler was already saying, thoughts to everybody out there who was touched by him. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. People don't really know clubbies because they're not doing interviews. They're not on the front lines. They're not trainers. They're not coming out onto the field. They're not doing anything like that. And yet there's so much that they do literally behind the scenes to make the wheels kind of turn and make baseball happen on a daily basis, which is just nuts. I mean, no sport does this quite the way ours does, in that you are going to play almost every day for the spring, all of the summer, and then part of the fall. And there is somebody who needs to get everybody's gear ready for each of those days, and needs to, make the transition from road trips, difficult both in the majors and the minor leagues. Whether you're taking a plane, whether you're getting all the stuff off the truck, getting all the stuff off the bus, there's somebody who is doing that. And sometimes they have help and sometimes they don't. And, if you get a chance, if you go to the park every day, if you're a season ticket holder for one of these minor league clubs, try to find out who these guys are. Try to recognize that they are the people who, like I said, make the wheels turn on a daily basis. I'm going to be honest, it absolutely sucks that it takes a loss like this for us to bring this up. Yeah. But I don't want this to go by the wayside either. Everybody in Durham has talked about how much he meant to them. And, I want everybody else who is a clubby out there to kind of know how much they mean to the sport as a whole as well.
And it's a rare capacity in that clubhouse managers really have a foot in two worlds. It's not often that, maybe the people on the media relations side are the other ones in this regard. But aside from a general manager, there are not that many people in a minor league front office that have a foot both in the on-field side and in the business side. And for a clubhouse manager, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of juggling the finances of what you need in the clubhouse, how you need that operation to run from your own front office side, while also having to juggle directives from the organization. So many clubs now are imposing not restrictions, but requirements on the type of nutrition that they need for their players. Guys can't just be going out with cold cut sandwiches and peanut butter and jelly. So there's a lot of stuff with the clubhouse personnel dealing with the way major league organizations want things run. So they really are part of the backbone and part of the very small group that baseball would not be possible without. And so again, our hearts go out to the Durham Bulls, who lose Colin Saunders way too early, and to Colin Saunders' family as well. His mother and his brother and his uncle were with him at the time that he passed away. So our thoughts with the Bulls and with Colin's family. And that will do it for this week's edition of Three Strikes. Coming up on the show, a mystery guest. We don't even know yet, but you know because you downloaded the episode. So whoever that is that Sam got from Yankees camp, coming up next with Sam.
Hi, everybody. Just checking in here just to introduce our guest this week. I was able to grab at Yankees camp here in Tampa, Kyle Higashioka. He's a catcher added to the 40-man roster back in November. Some of you might remember that I did a tool shed on him about what it was like to be added to the 40-man roster, particularly after his power jump. He hit 5 homers in 93 games in 2015. That jumped to 21 homers over 202 games in 2016. That's what helped push him onto the roster. He's now kind of third behind Austin Romine and obviously Gary Sanchez on that Yankees depth chart at the catching position. So we caught up a little bit. This interview is a little shorter than the interviews we normally do for the podcast. That's because it's in a locker room atmosphere. Kyle had to kind of get going pretty quickly, but it's a pretty good conversation. Hope you guys all enjoy it. See you on the other side. So yeah, what's different about camp this year? Now being on the 40-man, haven't gone through that this offseason.
I mean, it's nice, being on the roster for camp. It's like, first experience with that, so that's cool. But I'm really trying not to make it any different than past years. For the last few years, I've always gone in with the mindset of trying to make the team. So even though it was unrealistic, but now it's no different. So. Yeah.
What about the way you're kind of treated? Do you kind of work with pitchers a little bit more? What about that work that you're doing while you're here?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see, I get to work with some of the, more established guys a lot more. Been able to avoid a couple of the road trips I haven't played on, which was, it's
no
nice.
Going to Palm Beach yet so far?
Well, if I play, I hope I go.
Right, right.
But if I'm not playing, then it's nice to not have to go on the road.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's been cool. It's been really cool.
Yeah, and just kind of take me. What's the life of a catcher? You guys show up early. Obviously, everybody talks about pitchers and catchers, but you're learning so many different arms. You got to learn so many different repertoires. What's that kind of like?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that you got to take seriously because our job is to basically make the pitchers better whenever we can, and this is like the most important time to get to know the pitchers and to learn what they like to do and all that stuff before the season starts, so that you don't have to go through that break-in period once everything gets going.
Mm-hmm. And offensively, when we spoke before, you were saying you're like a math and science guy. And kind of the way you thought about hitting in terms of meeting the ball, where it's coming. How much is kind of StatCast and the way we think about launch angles? How much is that? Are you guys kind of talking about that even in the minors now? Even if the data's not necessarily there, but at least talking about that kind of stuff.
I mean, it's definitely talked about. We have a whole sports science department that is really in tune with that stuff. And, for me, I don't even really worry about launch angle or anything. I just make sure that, I feel like I'm, impacting the ball hard, on a line or in the air in BP. And if I feel like I'm doing that, then I know I'm in the right spot.
Mm-hmm. So it's even before you show up to the game, where you know where you are based on.
Yeah, well, I just know that if I can feel like I have a consistent swing plane, then I'm giving myself the best chance at the plate.
Mm-hmm. So how have you felt in that kind of regard this spring in terms of trying to repeat 21 homers what it was last year? Not necessarily trying to meet that exactly again, but at least keeping the power where it was.
I feel really good. Hit a couple so far this spring, so and I've really been seeing the ball pretty well, doing a good job being on time. So I think that's pretty much the most important thing is making sure you give yourself a chance by not being late.
Mm-hmm. And I guess we'll end on this one. It's obviously so much people talking about the farm system here. You've been here in Major League Clubhouse, but there's so many young guys around here. What is the feeling kind of amongst the young guys? This used to have a reputation as kind of a veteran clubhouse. Now there's so many young guys here. Torres, Frazier, yourself, the whole group. What is it like kind of mixing in with those guys with the veterans?
I think it's awesome, and I think the veteran guys are really embracing the young guys, and the young guys definitely feel really comfortable, and they're taking the opportunity by the horns, as is probably evidenced by yesterday's win where, we had mostly all young guys in the lineup at the end there, and, we took the lead, lost it, went down again, and then in the ninth inning came back and won it. So, I mean, you can just tell that, like, these guys, they all want to win. So it's a good feeling.
All right, great. Thanks so much, Kyle. Best of luck this spring.
Thank you.
There's that Simpsons episode that aired it must have been right after Super Bowl 33 between the Broncos and Falcons, in which Homer and Mo are talking in the bar about the Super Bowl's participants, and in order to leave it available for it to be edited for subsequent Super Bowls, they would hold their beer cups, their mugs up to their faces when they said Denver Broncos or Atlanta Falcons, and I feel like that's what we're doing, recording an outro from an interview that we don't even know who it was yet. But it was a great interview, though, Sam.
Oh, thank you very much.
It was good work. It was really good work.
I think we hit on all the major topics of the day. His answer to the third question
was fantastic.
Particularly inspiring.
Yeah, it was really good. It was really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
It was,
Now it makes me think I need to ask a super interesting third question.
For question number 3, you really got to dig deep now.
Yeah.
I like it. So Sam's already at spring training in Florida, as we noted. Went down there today. We're recording on Tuesday. Tomorrow will be his first day traveling to camps. I'm going to be doing that for about 10 days. I'll head to Arizona on Sunday with Josh Jackson. We'll be covering the Cactus League. But Sam had a great concept in which we kind of wanted to discuss what spring training means from our vantage point. Spring training is my favorite time of year because you just get that hope that things are going to be okay when the sun is shining and you get to watch baseball in a live context. And it's so awesome for fans because it is that feeling of the rest of the year is coming, and it's coming in a positive light. And soon we're going to get to do this at our home Major League ballpark. We'll get to sit outside in shorts and T-shirts on a summer night, and everything's going to be great. But it's a very different experience for what fans are going down there to see and what we're going down there to see in terms of prospect coverage. It's even different for us what we need to see and what we go down to observe versus what writers on the big league side do. And Sam wanted to talk about that, which I think is a really cool idea for his segment. Our apologies to Benjamin Hill, but we'll catch up with Ben next week. But yeah, let's roll on this, Sam.
Yeah, so the way things kind of work for us is obviously we're focusing on prospects. And as we've noted, throughout the winter, going into the spring, some of these guys get major league, invitations to spring training. That means when we show up, they're going to be in the major league clubhouse. They're going to be rubbing elbows with, some of your favorite stars. A lot of times that makes for a good storyline. What are you doing by watching, Jacoby Ellsbury every day, or Freddie Freeman every day, or, whatever, going down the line, Mookie Betts every day. So we get to kind of see them in that atmosphere. That's an availability for us. We get to talk to them there before they get out for their workouts. But I think the thing that we do perhaps more than other, your favorite major league beat writer is travel to the backfields. One thing I try to do at every camp, I try to meet up with the player development director, try to get his scope of things, talk to him about individual players, talk to him about the system as a whole, try to kind of get the lay of the land, and usually that happens near the backfields where all these minor leaguers are practicing, where they're getting in their BP, where they're getting in their players fielding practice. Because a lot of minor leaguers, we've talked to several on this podcast who have said they've come early, but reporting dates weren't until this very last week. That's why we're showing up when we're showing up, because we want to show up when all the prospects are there. We don't want to show up just when the major league invite guys are there. So, we kind of get to see them in a little different atmosphere. I want to say away from the bright lights, but obviously everybody's working out in the morning, so it's not that same thing, but away from the major league facilities. And it's a little bit more raw in the backfields if you've ever been there. We said last week, how easy it is to see workouts on the backfields. Once the games get going, it's even easier to see those. But yeah, it's just such a fun experience back there, and it's so loose, and everybody's, so easy to talk to and that kind of thing. So that just makes for so much more fun to be there in person. And for part of this too is, we're working out of our different locations. We're watching video, we're talking to our sources, but a lot of the fun is getting to know these guys in person. I mean, it's one thing when we talk to them over the phone, but making these personal connections that we can use later on down the line, that's what makes this job fun too. In this particular instance, I remember talking to Dom Smith last year at spring training. Just went up to him at Mets camp and said, "Hey, thanks for being on the podcast a couple weeks ago." And his face just lit up. He was like, "Oh man, that was so much fun. I'm so glad you guys asked. That was great." So to kind of make these connections with these guys be something other than somebody who's just a byline. It makes it fun for us, and it makes the quotes so much better. It makes the story so much better, and that's why spring training is almost one of my most fun times to write. Beyond just be there and bask in the optimism, it's so much more fun to write during this period than I think other times of the season.
Yeah, there really is something inspiring about being able to cover stories at spring training that you feel like are probably pretty unique to your experience of spring training. And I had a similar thing happen last year with Jeff Hoffman, who we had on the podcast back shortly after he was drafted by the Blue Jays and was coming back from Tommy John surgery and all that kind of stuff. And it was a similar moment as you had with Dom Smith in that these guys are still just kind of getting their first taste of that. Dom Smith even more than Jeff Hoffman, because Hoffman played at the college level where you get a little bit of exposure to media interest and fan interest and that kind of stuff. But for a lot of these guys, they're learning those things just as much as you're learning how to command a new pitch or a difference in your swing. So that is really neat for us. The other thing I love, and I know, Sam, that you've had these experiences too, the people in player development roles for major league organizations, I've not encountered. I can think of one interview that I've had, and this will be my 4th season with MILB. I can think of one interview that I've had in which a guy seemed like he would rather be doing anything else in the world than talking to me. And it was an in-season interview after a game, team that was getting on the bus for a road trip in a stressful moment of a season. I understand those. But in spring training, it seems like everybody is so there. They're all so present in the moment, and they're all so willing to help you out with anything that you need. And I can't tell you how many conversations end with take my card, take my phone number, whatever it is, whatever you need. If you ever have a question about one of our guys, if you ever have something that you're just curious about on the player development side, give me a call, send me a text, whatever it is. And that's, to me, one of the really coolest things about this time of year is I think everybody is in that mode of like knowing why you do what you do and loving why you do what you do.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that too has to do with, this is the time we can kind of say, I knew them when. I mean, so much of that is what prospect coverage is, what minor league coverage is in the first place. And that makes our job so much fun too. When a guy like Corey Seager goes on to win, Rookie of the Year in a runaway, and we can remember what he was like, in Tulsa.
Right.
Or, in Oklahoma City. That's great. But yeah, just that combination of, okay, here's a prospect who we think is going to bloom, and also it's springtime, so everybody feels like they're going to bloom. It's just so much fun to be around people in that kind of instance, being around the fans. I do recommend it. I know it's not easy for everybody to do. Trust me, I'm going to Atlanta's spring training on Friday, I think, and that's in Disney World, which they charge Disney World prices for spring training. Not easy. Legitimately, there are tickets for $64.
What?
Yeah, to spring training games. So I know it's not easy, but if you're in the Florida area, if you're in the Arizona area, if you're looking for something to do, as a memorable family outing, and your kids have vacation, in February during spring training, I highly recommend it. If you're around while we're here, if you're listening to this on Thursday or Friday and you're going to be in Florida or in Arizona, reach out to us. I mean, it's as much fun for us to interact with you guys as it is for us to interact with players. We don't get to write that up. That's not part of our job technically. That's not why they pay us. But we'd love to talk to you guys about what we're doing, what you're looking for, what you are excited about for the season.
You know what the other thing is, too, if you get a chance to go down and hang out on backfields, scouts are very easy to pick out. They all seemingly wear the same thing. They're all carrying around a radar gun. They've all got charts and clipboards and that type of stuff. 10 minutes talking with a scout is the most fascinating 10 minutes that you'll have as a baseball fan ever. So if you're on the backfields, you see somebody who looks like they're approachable, looks like they don't really have anything going on, strike up a conversation. In spring training, everybody's open to a conversation, it seems like. And yeah, maybe somebody will tell you to beat it, but I really doubt that will happen. And you'll glean so much from a conversation like that you never knew before, that it makes you a more intelligent fan. And not only that, it just kind of makes you a more intelligent observer of anything, because it's all lessons you can really apply, the way guys react to certain situations, what you're giving for, or what you're looking for in any given moment that's going on in a baseball field. Or a guy strikes out, watch what he does in the dugout. Watch how he reacts to something. If he goes over and immediately talks to a coach, wondering what happened versus slamming a helmet down and freaking out about a strikeout. Those types of things make you more intelligent as somebody who observes the game and observes really anything else outside of it.
Yeah, and you're rarely ever going to get it to be on a level like this.
Right.
Like spring training, right behind those dugouts in some instances, or at least on the same level and not, 15 rows up. So yeah, I can't say it enough. It is a fun opportunity. So yeah, so if you get the chance, if you're lucky enough to have the opportunity, take advantage if you can.
And let us know, podcast@milb.com, or you can tweet at us. I am at Tyler Mon. Sam is at Sam Dykstra, MILB. And that'll do it for this segment. When we return, we'll wrap things up and again give you a preview of what we got coming up on the show next week from spring training in Florida and Arizona. And we'll put the finishing touches on the centennial episode of the Show Before the Show podcast coming up next. 100 episodes of the Show Before the Show podcast in the books. 100 episodes. 100 episods, Sam.
You can't see it, but there's definitely confetti in my room. It's a one-person party, but I am enjoying the heck out of it.
It's 4.167 days of my life that we've been on this show.
Have you been running that math this entire episode?
I finally just busted out my phone to use a calculator.
Oh, okay.
Probably could have done
I thought
that.
It was a calculator that was like adding it up as we were going along.
It was a calculator from the 1860s. Been doing work for quite some time. It was an adding machine. So we're putting the finishing touches on this one. But coming up next week, we are going to have a loaded spring training edition of the show. And Sam came up with the brilliant idea to call it Spring Training 101. So we're coming up with that next week for episode number 101. Sam, what do you got on the docket? When we go down there, we have league-wide credentials. Josh and I have a Cactus League-wide credential. Sam has a Grapefruit League-wide credential, because one thing that I learned in my first year going to spring training back in 2015 was that basically whatever you have planned on a given day will change the moment that you attempt to do it. So it's you have to be very fluid with what you attempt to do and what you end up doing on any given day. But what's in the offing for what do you have planned to get accomplished?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, is that I'm going to, have like 5 guys I want to talk to, knowing that the way workouts, situate themselves, the way the schedule works out, the way other interviews work out, I may get to 2 or 3 of them. So it's all about research the night before, and research that I already have, thankfully, through this job. But I'm going to be hitting up the Yankees, Phillies, Braves, Red Sox, Pirates, Mets, Astros, Nationals, and Cardinals. Like I said earlier, talking to player development directors at each of those stops, working on my prospect primers, who I think I have the Braves, Phillies, Red Sox, and Nationals. So I'll be saving some of that stuff, some of that kind of content for the prospect primers. But I'll be doing a story a day, kind of focusing on one prospect or one situation, and then also a blog post, which is just kind of emptying the notebook. What else I kind of got out of the day, and between my observations and, between some of the other interviews. So lots coming basically every day, here from me until the 17th, with you and Josh in Arizona. I think we're going to have that state pretty well blanketed. There's going to be no cactus uncovered, or left covered, I should say. So this is going to be an exciting time for the site. We're going to have tons of new stuff. Check back every day. Check back every night. We're going to be filing a lot of this stuff the afternoons, early evening. Check the site's Twitter account. Check our Twitter accounts for videos, other things that we tweet out while we're here. It's going to be coming hot and fast, and then and then the season will be here, and then we're right back on schedule.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. For prospect primers, I've got White Sox, Rockies, Royals, and Padres, and we don't want to give away everybody's story assignments, but Josh obviously is our Dodgers guru, so he'll be headed out to Camelback Ranch. We'll both be at Camelback Ranch because I'll have the White Sox. My first question is going to be, how much does everybody in that organization hate Sam for vetoing the vote of the White Sox having the top pitching farm system in baseball? So that'll be question number one. And, we'll see what they have to say.
Yeah, you bring that to Rick Hahn himself.
Maybe I will, Sam. Maybe I will. I won't. Don't worry.
He might not actually like me for all I know.
Who is this Dykstra?
I was the one guy at the winter meetings who brought up the fact that Giolito and Lopez weren't that great in the majors, and if that affected their thinking at all. And he was just like, no, we're confident.
Nice job, Sam.
What are you doing asking me that question?
That's going to be the first question I get from him is, wait a minute, do you know Sam Dykstra? I'm not talking to you. Dang it. It's ruined.
And then you're just going to disown me to get an interview.
No, I don't know. Sam Dykstra, never heard of him. Is he Lenny's son? It's the first question we get about Sam from everybody.
Yeah.
We're really excited for next week. This is going to be a ton of fun. Sunday night cannot come soon enough for me. And Josh, I believe, is driving Sunday during the day. So I'm going to make him pick me up from the airport, and it'll be great. And you enjoy tomorrow. That was a great interview you had with insert player's name here for this episode. And, continue doing great work with guys like that.
Yeah, with guys like him. What a great person that was. All right.
It was great. All right.
Talk to you next week.
I'll do it. Talk to you next week.